Please note that as of now, you can support the channel by becoming member using the join button under the video. Members can get access to special members-only badges, emojis, posts, polls, short videos and long-format videos. Thanks in advance. Now, let's play the video. Hello, you wonderful critical thinkers. Today I am going to talk about something that might ruffle some feathers. Some of you will agree with me and some of you won't. I'm not the first one, others have done this much better than I do, but I think this is important enough for all of us who value science and critical thinking to keep reporting about this case. And of course I'm talking about the YouTube videos of Sabine Hossenfelder. A while ago I made 2 videos about the famous German science communicator Sabine Hossenfelder, expressing my concern about the kind of videos, video titles and video thumbnails that she's been producing for the past year. I said that in some cases it looks like Sabine is not communicating science, but discrediting science. And yes, of course, it is true that Sabine is addressing a number of cases that she labels as fraud within the scientific community. And if these cases indeed are fraud, then it is important that these cases are brought to light so that steps can be taken to correct those who are involved. But that doesn't mean that science or academia in itself is failing, broken, dying, or any other hyperbolic buzzword that Sabine tends to label science and academia as of lately. I have admired Sabine Hossenfelder for many years for being one of the most productive and capable science communicators on YouTube, but that admiration has turned into fear that we have lost Sabine as an asset and is now turning into a liability for the scientific community. To me, that would be a very shocking conclusion to draw, so I do not step into this without giving it proper thought. In this video, I want to explain the 3 reasons why I am so worried about the direction that Sabine seems to go. First of all, that is her continuous use of video titles and thumbnails that create a general anti-science and anti-academia sentiment to those who superficially touch upon her videos or have insufficient capabilities for critical thinking. Second thing that makes me worry is Sabine's continuous promotion of totally fringe pseudoscientific ideas. Third, there is the subtlety with which Sabine seems to disguise her pseudoscience promotion, possibly indicating that this is a process that she has given careful thought. Let me explain all 3 points and then perhaps you can make up your own mind. Let's do this. As I said, my first point of concern is Sabine Hossenfelder's ongoing use of video titles and thumbnails that discredit science as a whole. In my previous videos about Sabine, I showed some examples of that. Some of Sabine's supporters came to my channel and called my approach cherry-picking, which is a rather weak rebuttal. Someone who really has the intention to communicate and promote science would probably not want to have even one video title or thumbnail on their channel that can be perceived as discrediting science in a general way. Someone whose mission it is to stand tall for science, the scientific method, the scientific community, and everything it has accomplished for centuries would feel shocked to hear that the video titles and thumbnails are seen, at least by some, as anti-science. If I were the science communicator that I always thought Sabine was, I would immediately replace those video titles and thumbnails. If they were reported to me, I would encourage that kind of cherry-picking so that I could remove all doubt about my intentions. But not Sabine Hossenfelder. I'm pretty sure she knows about the criticism some of us have regarding some of her video thumbnails and titles, but she leaves them be. Apparently, those video titles and thumbnails express the message that Sabine wants to convey, or there is some other benefit for her to have video titles and thumbnails like that, and I will get to that later on in the video. To make my point even clearer than in my previous videos, I will now show you not just a few video titles and thumbnails, but instead I will show you about 15 examples of Sabine's video titles and thumbnails that discredit science, scientists and academia in a general way. There are so many of them that those cherries are very easy to pick. Here are video titles and thumbnails that Sabine used during the past year in which she explicitly discredits science in general and an entire field of science. There we go. Bad science. Science is failing. This is why physics is dying. Is science dying? Bribes in science. Research is broken. Bullshit research. And even the end of science. Why would a science communicator suggest that her life's work, everything she dedicated her entire career to, is going to stop existing. Here are some titles and thumbnails Sabine used during the past year in which she explicitly discredits scientists in general. So now it's getting personal, because with these titles and thumbnails, Sabine is now discrediting the actual people whose work she is supposed to promote as a science communicator. There we go. I don't trust scientists. How I lost trust in scientists. And this one is very suggestive. Why do people hate scientists? Are people hating scientists now? Well, if they didn't, Sabine is now helping them to get some ideas about that. And here are some titles Sabine used in which she discredits all of academia. So not only the science itself and the people around it are bad, but also its entire organizational structure is rotten, according to Sabine. Look at this. Why academia sucks. Academia's scam problem. Scam papers everywhere. Is this the end of academia? Very ominous. And even this one, which is most disturbing. Academia is communism. Should we defund academia? If I were a genuine high-profile science communicator, I would not want to have any of those video titles and thumbnails on my YouTube channel. Especially titles like The End of Science. Why do people hate scientists? And should we defund academia? To me, those titles cannot be distinguished from anti-science propaganda that has the purpose of dismantling science from the inside. And especially that last one. Should we defund academia? Technically it's a question, but underneath it very much sounds like an implicit call to action to take away the jobs and to end the careers of scientists. I would expect something like this to be said by an extremist politician who is sponsored by a scientific illiterate billionaire. But the disturbing reality is that this comes from the mouth of one of the most influential science communicators in the world. This is not me cherry-picking. This is a warning for worse things to come. My second point of concern was Sabine's continuous promotion of fringe pseudoscientific ideas. That is a rather remarkable choice for a science communicator. You know, spending time and resources to things that are not science. The only good reason I think you can have for that as a science communicator is to very clearly expose that pseudoscience as nonsense. But that does not seem to be the approach that Sabine chooses. For example, earlier this year, Sabine made a video about supposedly hidden constructions and staircases under the pyramids of Egypt that supposedly were 600 meters deep. The title of Sabine's video was Huge Structures Discovered on the Pyramids. Per usual, Sabine quickly added a question mark, so that whenever her critics would address her for promoting nonsense, she could say, "Oh, it was just a question." And of course, the story turned out to be total bogus. There was no real scientific evidence to support these crazy ideas in the first place, so the whole story had nothing to do with science, and therefore deserves no place within the domain of science communication. And Sabine already knew that when she made that video. So if she wanted to support science, the title of her video could have been Frauds Claim Nonsense Ideas About Fake Structures on the Pyramids. You know, the exact same way Sabine is sometimes approaching actual science, as I just demonstrated with some of her video titles and thumbnails. Apparently, Sabine has no problem labeling actual science as fraud. But for some reason, when it comes to pseudoscientific nonsense, Sabine expresses herself much more carefully. Again, that's a strange move for a science communicator. Then there was this monstrosity of a video, in which Sabine promoted Eric Weinstein, a man who earned a PhD in physics 33 years ago, but since then he has never worked as a physicist, never did any academic physics research, and he never published anything in a scientific physics journal. Yet, Sabine somehow thinks his fringe ideas and speculations deserve to be addressed within the domain of science communication, and for some reason she pretends that she finds theories of everything totally uninteresting and a waste of time, while everyone can see that she made at least 20 videos about theories of everything. Look, here are some examples. A new theory of everything has just dropped. Theories of everything can't exist. The theory of everything that nobody talks about. Why theories of everything keep failing. An explanation for everything. This is why I think a theory of everything does not exist. And this theory of everything could actually work. You see, I wouldn't say Sabine is obsessed with theories of everything, but stating that you're not interested in it and that you think it's a waste of time looks like a lie. Now, this is just speculation, but maybe now Sabine pretends not to be interested in theories of everything because it makes her look like a neutral bystander when discussing the ideas of Eric Weinstein. And if you're not involved or not an expert on those theories, you can now call the patchwork of Weinstein a theory of everything as well, which gives it more importance than it has in reality, because Eric Weinstein does not have a theory of everything. It's not even a theory. It's not based upon actual scientific research. It's not peer-reviewed. Most of the physics community does not grant the ideas of Eric Weinstein any scientific credibility. But again, here's another totally unscientific set of ideas that Sabine, as a science communicator, somehow wishes to discuss and give importance. But it gets even worse, because then there was Sabine promoting more totally ridiculous pseudoscience ideas. In this case, the supposed visit from interdimensional space aliens to Earth. Of course, in that video, Sabine distances herself from all that nonsense. But then the damage has already been done, because Sabine is a science communicator. And by making videos about these wild speculations of visiting aliens, she grants those ideas relevance and credibility. Why would you do that as a science communicator? This week it was again party time at Sabine's YouTube channel, because now we have this. Interstellar object might be an alien probe. And of course, there is no scientific evidence that proves any of this. Why would you discuss such a thing as a science communicator without dismantling it and exposing it right away from the very start? Which brings me to my third worry about Sabine's videos, which is the subtlety with which Sabine seems to disguise her pseudoscience promotion, possibly indicating that this is a process she has given careful thought. To demonstrate that, let's watch Sabine's video about the 3i Atlas object that is currently entering our solar system. In this video, the main message does not seem to be a scientific description of what we know about the cosmic object, which is the thing we would expect from a science communicator. No, in this video, Sabine is meticulously crafting the narrative that this object could be an alien spaceship, which is just a totally fringe idea that is not supported by any evidence. And at the same time, Sabine also seems to perform a balancing act in order to prevent that her promotion of pseudoscience gets too obvious. Let's watch.
3i Atlas is an interstellar object that's currently passing through the solar system. It's received a lot of attention as possible alien technology. We already talked about this some months ago, but the more data we have of this object, the more unusual it has become.
So already within the first 10 seconds of her video, Sabine entertains the idea of the object being an alien spaceship. And then she continues the video until almost the 3-minute mark, without even once rejecting or even expressing doubt regarding the alien spaceship idea. To the contrary, at around the 3-minute mark, Sabine is even trying to feed the alien spaceship sentiment a bit more.
It also emits carbon dioxide and water in a ratio that researchers have called unusual, and that, some say, would fit to being exhaust from a propulsion system. Still, even if we take only what we read in the astrophysics papers, this sounds suspicious, doesn't it?
It takes Sabine until the 3-minute and 40 seconds mark to make a first attempt to be critical towards the alien spaceship idea.
Let me ask you in return, if this was a deliberately chosen and designed orbit, why does it stay away from Earth, the one planet in the habitable zone? That doesn't make any sense.
But this critical approach then turns out to be a decoy, because then Sabine is explaining her own critical approach away with even more fringe alien spaceship speculation.
Maybe they're afraid of us and trying to hide? Well, they're not doing a good job at it, do they? That leaves the possibility that it's a piece of space junk. Personally, I think it's highly likely that there are other intelligent civilizations in our galaxy. They almost certainly have explorer missions, and more importantly, there must be lots of tech debris flying around in interstellar space.
Marvelous, isn't it? This object does not behave as what we would expect from a manned alien spaceship. So the explanation is, this must be an abandoned alien spaceship. The level of this reasoning is so poor that it is not worthy of the science communicator that I thought Sabine was. Sabine so badly wants to cater to the sensationalist space alien believers that she insists to hold on to speculative nonsense. But then of course she understands that she must cover her own back to make sure that critics cannot claim that she said, "This is an alien spaceship."
Let me be clear, we have no evidence that 3i Atlas is alien technology. The most plausible explanation is that it's a comet different from those we've seen before.
But that only lasts for a few seconds, and then yet again she doubles down on her ridiculous space alien bogus.
But I worry that astrophysicists may be too eager to dismiss the alien tech possibility. So this is what I worry about when it comes to alien technology. Not looking at a piece of alien tech because we don't want Avi Lib to be right could be the single biggest mistake that our civilization can ever make.
So, there's no way around it. The main message of this video of Sabine Hossenfelder is that the 3i Atlas object might just be an alien spaceship, despite there not being any scientific evidence to prove or even suggest this. So the entire topic has got little to do with science, then why does she make a video about it? Well, I'm afraid the answer is money. Videos like these get loads of views and make Sabine some serious cash. The market for fringe, bogus speculations is much bigger than the market for actual scientific descriptions and explanations. And in this niche, one can expect to make at least $3 to $5 per 1,000 views. But some of the big YouTubers make much more money than that. But let's stick with this conservative estimate. The alien spaceship video was Sabine's best performing video out of her last 28 videos. At the moment I record this, her alien spaceship video has no less than 800,000 views. That makes Sabine at least $3,000. I think that's a conservative estimate of only the ad revenue, not including her sponsor deals or any other money she might make from this video. The video about the nonsense story regarding the structures under the Egyptian pyramids is one of her most successful videos ever, now standing at 1.4 million views. That means at least $5,000 in ad revenue for only one video. And you know what else does make much more money than communicating science? Well, bashing science, of course. Look, this is why physics is dying. It has 1 million views, and that means around $4,000 for Sabine. Science is failing, and I don't trust scientists. They are also among Sabine's best performing videos. Together, these two anti-science titles generated 1.5 million views, and that means another $6,000 for Sabine. And her Why Academia Sucks video absolutely hit the jackpot with 3.5 million views, and that means around $14,000 for just one video. Now I know what my critics are going to say. I'm of course jealous of the success of Sabine, and of course if they resort to that kind of irrelevant ad hominem, we know that I've got a good point. Yes, of course I'm jealous of the financial success that Sabine has generated for herself, but I'm not jealous of the way she is making that cash. A science communicator who doesn't shy away from promoting fringe pseudoscience ideas and who uses a whole bunch of video titles and thumbnails that discredit science, scientists and academia. No, that's not something to be jealous of. Thanks for watching.